Hi, I'm Alan Ross. I'm here at the IEEE PES T&D, that's a lot of acronyms, conference. This is the 2020 version that is actually being held in 2022. These interviews that we're conducting is with thought leaders on the future of the power industry. So enjoy. Our next guest is Elise Arnold. She is with SGB Schmidt, and she is one of the passionate women of Women in Power Systems. Elise, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so the first question we ask everybody is, I want you to put on your prognosticator hat, all right? What does the future look like for the power industry? You've been in it about 10 years now, right?
Correct.
First with Reinhausen, now with SGB Schmidt. And there's just an enormous amount of change. You're part of the IEEE Transformer Committee, so you must have an opinion about, personal opinion, about what are the changes that are taking place in the power industry that either SGB Schmidt and or anybody in the industry needs to be looking at, taking advantage of.
Oh, well, I think there's so many changes. We're living in a time right now within the industry that is really bringing about so many exciting changes. And specifically in terms of SGB Schmidt, it's very much a focus in terms of sustainability for the future, right? So what we are doing currently and what we have recently done is utilize Blooming steel, which is a carbon-reduced core steel from ThyssenKrupp. We were very fortunate in being the first transformer manufacturer in the industry to utilize that for our clients and our partners. And it's just been an amazing experience and something that we're very focused on in reducing the carbon footprint, and not only in terms of environmental, but also sustainability means for us diversity. So that leads us back to Women in Power Systems.
Right.
And really looking at the overall impact that our company is delivering, and how we're going to, like I said, not only reduce that environmentally, but how we can improve our long-term sustainability and work with our customers to really make an impact in that for the future.
Every transformer manufacturer that we've talked to at this event had one thing in addition to, I mean, everybody had, you've got sustainability. One of the things is lead times. Lead times have extended tremendously, and that's causing a lot of chaos in the industry from a utility perspective, because the planning is now much more difficult, because it's hard for manufacturers to plan. You got not only do you have lead times on your supplies getting in, you also have labor issues that are coming into play. We've had a lot of people talk about how it's been hard, especially North American manufacturers.
Sure.
It's been hard to get labor for all of their projects they're doing. But how are those things impacting you?
Well, that's a really great question. So, I mean, in terms of material, we've been very, very fortunate because we have a great internal strategic sourcing group and purchasing group that have really brought us through these difficult times, not only in terms of the pandemic, but also we have, unfortunately, the war in Ukraine at the moment. So that's playing huge roles and having impacts on everything that we do. But as I mentioned, we've been very fortunate with being able to work with our suppliers, and we really approach it from the perspective that not only do we look at our partners in terms of utilities as long-term relationships, but we also look at our suppliers in terms of long-term relationships. And when you approach the sourcing situation from a term of long-term partnership, you're able to forge those kind of relationships that are long-standing and really support you in these moments. So that's been very, very helpful in terms of the material side of things, right? But what we're also doing in terms of labor, and this is one of the things where we as a European manufacturer really are also, again, very fortunate in being able to have a very steady, knowledgeable workforce that we really, it's really a part of our culture, you know,
Right.
within our factory. So, for instance, we have a school on site within the
okay.
factory.
Right.
So we're able, in Germany and also in the Netherlands, it's a common practice to have really young people within the educational system to focus on vocational jobs and careers.
Yeah.
And we're able to bring them in and really it's basically a 3-year program where
Yeah.
they start out and they choose to go through that program, and it's a combination of electrical principles which we offer at our school
Yeah.
on site at the factory, and also continuing education in the public school system there.
Okay.
And after the 3 years, they go through an apprenticeship program throughout the different departments of the company. And at the end of that time, they're able to choose if they would like to come and work for the company. And also then they have an insight and an overview into the actual departments themselves. And they can then choose what department in a very transparent and knowledgeable way that they would like to be involved in. And then, you know, also once they choose that department, they're able to go through the qualification matrix that we have set up for the individual departments in terms of further training, further learning, and it's really a great support in terms of meeting those labor aspects that you mentioned.
You grow your own.
It's
You
very
grow your own.
important,
Yeah, I
especially
know.
in what we do, because it's a very specialized
Oh yeah.
technology. It's a very, you know, I always call it an art. So when I go into the winding shop at the factory and I see what our winders are doing, it's an art form.
Yeah.
I love to tell the story when I first started at SGB, that I of course was also able to go through that and to work.
You were a winder?
No,
I know.
no.
I know that.
Listen, I would love to be able to take credit
Yeah.
and say I'm such an artist, but
Yeah.
that's unfortunately not the situation. But what I was able to do, and what the company allowed me, is when I started after I finished my public education there, was really focusing on going through the individual departments, like I said. And
Right.
so I was in the winding shop and I was talking to one of our winders. And for us, the North American market, specifically the US market, it poses its own specific technical aspects that
Correct.
are
Right.
very
Yeah.
individual to the market.
Right.
And so we have to have experienced people. And I was put with one of the winders, and I was talking to him and I said, you know, how long have you actually been, you know, doing U.S. windings? And he said, well, this is my first tap winding
Really?
for the U.S. market. And then I said, well, and how long have you actually been winding? And he said, 8 years.
Wow.
So then you see what I referred to before, that qualification matrix.
Yeah.
They're taking them, and it's such an art form.
Yeah.
They're taking them from the beginning and they're training them up. I mean, 8 years is a long time to be working in a job, to be then deemed qualified
Right.
to do what we do here in the North American
Yeah.
and U.S. market.
Let's switch gears a little bit. Women in Power Systems,
Yes.
which is an APC Media brand and a growing one. You've got a passion for women in Power Systems.
I do.
You're part of the steering committee.
Yes.
Yes, you are. Good. Well, steer us. Okay. No, but talk a little bit about it's not as unusual as it has been. We've seen, a lot more women in power, women in leadership that are taking leadership of companies or departments or whatever. But why such a passion for women? Other than the fact that you're a woman, why a woman in power systems? Why such a passion for that?
Well, you know what? I see, and I know personally, being 10 years in the industry,
Right.
first at Runhausen and now at SGB Smith, I know the challenges that I've been posed with, and it's not always easy to navigate a traditionally male-dominated industry.
No. The fact that 10 years ago we couldn't, no, it's been changing, but every
Yeah.
industry is changing. And I'm so proud to be the publisher, editor of Women in Power Systems, but then I got out of it and said, no, women take it, and you all have, which is brilliant.
Yeah, and that's really the point. That's why I have such a passion for it, is being in the industry for the amount of time that I have been, seeing the challenges that we face. It's very, very, very important, and again, like you said, I'm very passionate about making sure that we forge a road and support
Right.
the women who have the interest, and really be that kind of source to say, hey, this is a great industry to be involved in. Let's work together to support each other, to really be that person to show that there's great opportunities in this industry.
Right.
And there's a lot of also great men who have supported me,
Right.
and women, of course, to really get to where I am. And I just want to carry that forward and make sure that young women know that there are such viable opportunities, and really they're abundant, especially today.
Yeah.
It really brings me back to talking about the sustainability that SGB Smith Group has had as a focus and continues to carry on in the future. That's also part of it.
Yeah.
So it's just a great fit and a great opportunity in terms of not only my company, but in securing and expanding the role of diversity within our industry, because really only through diversity do we reach the best results.
All right. So, and this is now, we're going to go to another one that it's been interesting that the last two, maybe even three chairs of the Transformer Committee were women, which is phenomenal because they are talented women. Wanda Reeder, who's also been I think Wanda at one time was in the PES president, if I'm not mistaken, who was the Transformer Committee chair for years. You go to the Transformer Committee meetings for IEEE. Talk about the importance of IEEE to the industry as a whole.
Well, it's just vital. It gives us our guidelines, it gives us our standards, not only as a manufacturer, but as an end user. It creates a common ground to have the conversations that we need to have.
Yeah.
And so it's such an important aspect and plays such a vital role within our industry. It really, like I said, gives us that common ground to be able to and also transparency in what we do, to be able to really successfully and clearly provide the service and the products that we provide.
Yeah, people have said to me, why does it take so long for IEEE to come up with a standard or an adjustment to the standard? And the answer is, it's a collaborative effort, and whenever you put 200 people into a room and call it a committee, it's going to take 6 years to do the DGA gas guide, which is what you all have just recently been working on coming out with. Well, there's something interesting I noticed about there are two words that you say that let me know that your roots are in Tennessee, right? One of the words is time. You said Tom, and it comes out just like you just. What part of Tennessee were you originally from?
Well, I was born in Chattanooga and grew up
Okay.
in West Tennessee.
West
So-
Memphis area.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly,
good like that.
exactly.
Well, I wish you much success, and thank you for being part of Women in Power Systems, the steering committee, because we've got great plans for it. We really want to encourage education, STEM. We don't do in the U.S. what they do in Germany and Europe and the Netherlands, where they start people at a young age and get them involved. Here, it's all go to college, and guess what? We've got more unemployed college graduates in the United States, and we have great need of people that can do things like wine
Absolutely.
transformers or do technology. So from that to engineering to management to the whole kind of a thing, the world is wide open for women in power systems, and it's something we
Absolutely.
believe wholeheartedly in. So, Elise, thank you so much. I
Thank you so
appreciate
much
your
for
time.
having me.
Okay, have a great time at the IEEE conference.
Thank you.
Okay.